following program is intended for mature audiences.
Listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportsshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
We have not one, mind you, but two Game 7s coming up here.
First time it's not first time. Second time it's happened since 1967, since expansion. Last one was actually in 2000.
Who was it in 2000?
Philly,
I think
Buffalo.
It was Philly, New Jersey. New Jersey, yeah, and then
Buffalo,
Dallas,
Colorado. Right.
And who won the Cup? Was it Jersey that year won the
Cup?
Dallas,
Dallas
that was Philly. That's right, yeah, okay.
Darian Hatcher became the first American captain to hoist the Stanley Cup.
Ah, I remember Darian Hatcher.
The second?
To some asshole that lives up the street. Dustin Brown, for those.
Likes his knee shots. He does.
Yeah.
So Zach, where you at on this so far?
So Zach, I have to ask, going into Game 6, how confident were you that this was going Game 7, or were you sure, or like, did you think the Ducks were going to pull it out? Like, was the result basically what I'm asking? Was it a surprise, or did you kind of see it coming from a mile away?
I'm surprised in how terrible they played for a chance to close it out, especially because, like, the way that I saw it coming out of Game 5, if the Ducks had held on to that 4-2 lead and they'd won 4-2 and it was a fairly convincing win, then I would have said, Chicago's not going to go down like that. They're going to come hard in Game 6, and then we're probably going to go back to Game 7. But with Chicago inexplicably tying it in the last 2 minutes, Jonathan Taves being amazing, Frederick Anderson
not so much
doing God knows what, setting me into a near heart attack. But then, to open up overtime and win it 45 seconds in, I felt like, well, that's a big surge of emotion that I didn't think that they were going to have. And now they're riding high going into Chicago. And Chicago's maybe unsure if they can really do this. And the Ducks would go in and beat them. But the Ducks didn't show up. They lost the first 13 faceoffs of the damn game.
I'm not one who pays attention to that. Like, usually faceoff stats come as a complete surprise to me. But even I picked up on that. Like, hey, Anaheim, you want to win one?
Watching the game 6.
Yeah.
The later it got where it was scoreless, the more concerned I became for the Ducks.
Just because the Blackhawks, and we've talked about it, how they can seemingly just decide they're going to score, you really kind of have to build up a big lead early if you want to weather that storm late in the game.
Right.
Mike sounded weird. Is he sounding weird to you, Zach?
He sounds a little underwater, but...
Yeah.
Let me turn off the fan here, see if that helps.
Okay.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Unruffled by that minor setback, we try phase 2.
Like I was saying, I just thought that when did the Blackhawks scored about midway through the second the first time?
Yeah, Francois Beauchemin decided to skate up to center ice to intercept a puck that he wasn't going to intercept, and gave a breakaway up to Brandon Saad.
But yeah,
then Duncan Keith was just patient and waited out and scored.
Captain of your Montreal Maroons, Duncan Keith. I'll have you know.
He's inhuman, man. I swear to God.
Isn't this lack of defensemen? I mean, well, I guess I should even ask the question because apparently they're at Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals.
They have 4.5 defensemen.
I was going to say, is that going to come back to be a problem? But apparently not. Well, because if it was going to be a problem, it would have been a problem already.
If they win Game 7 and go to the final, I guarantee you it will be a problem. It's funny. Like, you watch the Blackhawks, they don't have defensive pairs. They just rotate everybody through, basically.
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing I've ever seen from a defensive organization standpoint. But I think the Blackhawks scored the 3 goals in like 4 minutes. Not 3 goals in 37 seconds, but still pretty impressive.
No, but we've seen, you know what, though? Like Game 5, when you guys won in overtime,
game.
You were up
with Blackhawks with 2 goals, and
you were up 4-1,
4-2,
4-2. And I mean, honest to God, I was watching that, and I thought, well, it's 4-2. I'm going to flip to a baseball game. Came back, it was 4-4. That's how fast it happened.
Yeah,
that was not in 37 seconds, mind you, but it was still pretty damn quick.
Well, and that was the thing. The Ducks, they scored a goal at the end of towards the end of the second. Then they scored a goal early on in the third, and it's 3-2. And it's like, well, they haven't played all that well, but hey, they're still in it. I saw the Blackhawks score 2 goals in 2 minutes. I saw the Ducks score 3 goals in 37 seconds. This thing's not over, despite them not playing well. They can still come back and win this.
Yeah.
They had their opportunities down the stretch. They just missed on a bunch.
I'm going to give the Blackhawks some credit here, too, because
they played great.
They have like this blitzkrieg attack. I can't even explain it because my hockey acumen isn't such that I can give you a better explanation of just other than it just looks like when they decide they want to score goals in bunches, they score goals in bunches. It just seems like that's the way it happens. And
the series has just been 2 good teams.
It really has, yeah. I mean, there's you really can't take a thing away from either team. I think same thing in the East too. I mean, both teams have just.
The East has been even more uneven, I think.
The East has been even more uneven, but it's also been very similar in a lot of ways. Key among them, you had a case where one team was up 3-2, had a chance to close it out. Tampa was up 3-2, had the chance to take out the Rangers at home in Tampa, and just played awful.
And I got to think at this point too, with Lundqvist's record in Game 7s and all that, that's got to be
in the Garden.
In the Garden, that's got to be in their head a little bit, right?
2 of Tampa's best games have been in the Garden. Game 2 and Game 5.
I don't want to. I'm not trying to pull the pessimistic fan bit here, but I just have a sneaking suspicion that streak of his might end. When are they playing? Saturday, Friday?
They play Friday.
Yeah,
Friday.
But I hope not. But then again, if the Rangers can somehow manage to hold them to 35 shots, they're going to win.
I'm just saying it's a case where it's Henrik Lundqvist in Game 7. You don't root against that until he gives you a reason to root against it.
What happens, though, if Tampa can only get up to like 28 shots? So you just step out of the way and let 7 more get through to make sure that you win?
Greg is referring to the 35 shot stat that we said last week on Basically a Sports Show every week.
Bass listeners know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. It's, I don't know. You would think in the West where it's alternated every single game who's won, it would be a little bit more uneven. You're like, I don't know what's going on in this series. That one is just 2 teams playing tight and one team winning the games. In the East, Tampa will win by a blowout, and then they'll win close, and then the Rangers will win close, and they'll win by a blowout. Right. It's like, if anyone could tell you that they know what is exactly going to happen in this Game 7, they're lying. Because nobody knows what's happening in this series right now.
And I'm going to say this so you don't have to. I think the Ducks, with a break or 2 here, they were to finish this series off long before getting into Game 7.
Well, that's the thing.
If you say it, people are going to get all over you and call you a homer. But I watched the same games, and I agree with you. I think that they outplayed Chicago more often than they haven't at this point in the series.
I was at the triple overtime game. They outplayed them throughout the entire overtime. They hit 3 posts in the overtime.
I know. I watched that Vine. It was just frustrating. Ping, 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 ping.
And so,
sounded like a metal shop class.
Right, and then eventually somebody just throws the puck on net, it bounces off a leg, and it's like, oh, well, damn. And then you go into the double overtime game, and the Ducks outplay the Blackhawks in both the overtimes. And then they throw a shot on net, it gets blocked, Anderson's already down, and then it squeaks out to Vermette.
Well,
of all people, Antoine Vermette. So.
We saw it with the Rangers and the Caps in that Game 7, where the Caps just came out and just were all over them.
Right.
And then, like third time down the ice for the Rangers, boom, rebound, bang, series over.
Right.
Even though Washington outplayed them in every aspect of that overtime, and they still lost.
It's just amazing how that stuff happens.
Yeah.
And so, like I said it after 4 games, the Ducks were the better team through 4 games. They could have, if the 2 overtime games don't go not their way, then they probably win. But then you could say the same thing, like if Brian Bickle isn't an idiot in the overtime in Anaheim, I'm going to wind up for a slap shot right at the defenseman at the blue line while we're making a line change. And then that turns into a turnover where it's a 2-on-1 and it goes in. Then, maybe the Blackhawks win that game. They're up 3-2 going home. Who knows? It's been so tight that it could go either way all the time, as opposed to the Tampa Rangers series, where there's only been maybe 2 toss-up games. Probably Game 1, and then
Game 1, and then it was Game
Game 3 of the 6-5 game.
Yes.
I have a question, though, and I want to bring this up. I know what I'm watching when I watch hockey and all that. All right, I'm watching these Blackhawks fans on the boards talk about all the problems this team has. Now, I get that, having only 4 defensemen, basically, that's not the best. But this team, in my eyes, is not as bad as they're making it out to be. It's not even close to as bad. They look pretty damn good to me.
Any team is going to, or any fans are going to be more critical of their own team.
Yeah, but come on.
I mean, you saw me all year like, oh, God, these goddamn Ducks.
But you know what? I saw that, but you know what? It was never like this. I mean, it's at times it's like, how did this team even make the playoffs?
Well, because there's one of me and 7 of them.
Oh, that's true. But
right.
I just think that, right. I mean, honestly, I know we've got the 2 best teams in the West. I'm pretty sure we got the 2 best teams out of the East. Maybe you could argue Montreal, but whatever. And now we've got Game 7s across the board. It's like I told you, it's exquisite misery.
Yeah, it's great if your team wins or you're a neutral observer, but to sit in them is not fun. I will have you know.
Well, I know that,
especially because like with the Ducks, the last 2 years we've had Game 7s at home and we've lost.
Oh,
and now we have a Game 7 at home, and it's just kind of funny. 2 years ago, we lose to the Red Wings in the first round at home. Kind of a lay-down performance by the Ducks. Last year, second round, Ducks play the Kings and a lay-down performance at home.
Oh.
Now we're in the third round with another Game 7 for the third year in a row at home. I don't feel too great about it, but I also know that they have just as good a chance to win as everybody. It's nervous energy right now, and the thing that sucks the most is that there's an extra day of wait between the games because they need it for TV purposes or whatever. And so now there's an extra day of like, oh, when is it Saturday? Oh my God!
And you will be there, right?
I will be there. Yes.
Oh, that's even
the towels that they give us. I will not be. I don't think I'll wave it too much. It's probably just going to be Jerry Tarkanian style in my mouth, just like. Ugh.
I think it's better to be there than to have to watch it on television. I would prefer that, actually, I think.
I don't know.
I mean, the closest I can come was I went to a Toledo Gold Diggers Game 7 way back in the early 80s. It was awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it didn't seem as – not that you have an influence on it, but it doesn't seem as hopeless if you're there in person, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's probably just the energy of the crowd.
Yeah.
It's going to be it's like if they go and lay down again, like this is the thing that scares me the most. If they go out and lay down, just flat out lay down in a third straight Game 7 at home, they're the Sharks. They're the Capitals. They're that.
You can never be the Sharks because you still got a cup sitting.
But that was 8 years ago. I'm talking about
but still
with the current crop of team, losing 3 straight Game 7s at home.
Yeah. In
3 consecutive years, I think that would be cause for concern.
Well, I remember Game 7 against the Kings last year. I mean, Jesus, that thing was over before it ever got started.
Oh, I know. I think it was 3-0 after the first, and then they scored the 4th goal 2 minutes into the second period.
So, Mike, have you got a rooting interest in any of these?
I'm pulling for the Rangers in the East.
Okay.
In the West, I really don't care.
Well, see,
I really don't. I'm fine with the Ducks, and I'm fine with the Hawks. I don't have anything against either of those teams. I don't have a problem with the Ducks.
Go ahead.
The Rangers in the East, whoever in the West. Those are my rooting interests. I just don't want Steve Yzerman to succeed.
I wanted the Ducks to win just because of Zach, basically. But as this thing has progressed, and as I've watched the Blackhawks fans do their thing, I have gotten firmly in. I am in the Anaheim camp now. I would wear a freaking Ducks jersey if I had one.
I can't do that because some of the Ducks fans have been just as bad.
I disagree. I totally disagree.
Ducks fan.
I'd say it's been pretty bad, and has had his moments. I'm just saying.
I disagree.
I'd say anything done has been in response to what the Blackhawks fans.
That's my feeling, is that the Ducks fans, while yes, they have had their moments, they have always been, I think, in response to something.
Well, no, it's proactive.
Like I said, he's the East German judge. You just throw out his score and forget about it.
I haven't gone out of the way to get after the Blackhawks. I don't think he has either. It's just when they say shit like what? Well, I mean, you look at the boards. It's another asinine thing today. And it's just like, what are you reading? Where do you get this read on us or our team or our fans that you have this
boards, baby? HF board.
HF boards is the goddamn insane asylum.
Right.
I want to trade a 4th-round pick for Sidney Crosby. Sure you do. Sure you do. I'll trade you a bag of pucks for Crosby. Seems like a fair trade.
I don't know. The thing that he said, that said in particular about Sunbelt Solidarity, I don't think you can discount that entirely, considering you yourself, Zach, have been on this show and have said there's a reason why we all stick together. So
because everyone picks on us all the time.
That's my. Well, then you can't say that. You can't say that Sunbelt Solidarity is not a thing, except for the cases when it is a thing.
It's only like that when people think that we shouldn't have teams or that we're all idiots. When it comes to the pure hockey of it all, that doesn't play in. Like, I'm not going to root for the Lightning just because they happen to be a Southern team. I'll root for the Lightning because, you know what, I like Steven Stamkos, and maybe the Rangers, there's something I don't like about the Rangers or whatever. I wouldn't pick them like, hey, they get more sunshine than New York does, so go them. That's not why I would root for the Lightning.
I mean, honestly, Mike, what I've seen here, and first off, this is what bugs me about it, is that you've got bringing in shit from a boards that no one takes seriously. No one. Not a hockey fan worth his salt takes those HF boards seriously. Yet he's over there mining for shit to bring over to our boards and then throw it in the face of other fans. It's nonsense.
If the Blackhawks beat the Ducks and the Lightning beat the Rangers, and it's Blackhawks Lightning in the final, I'm not going to root for the Blackhawks. I'm going to root for the Lightning, not because they're a Southern team, but because I don't like the Blackhawks anymore. And I don't like the Blackhawks fans anymore. That's why I would root for the Lightning, not because it's really nice to see the Cup come to the South. No, I could care less. I just don't want the Blackhawks to win at that point.
So you could care less, except for the times when you care. See, that's the thing I'm having trouble about. It's this whole Sunbelt Solidarity thing. It seems incredibly convenient. It's only a thing in these specific instances.
Let me try
to make it black and white when it's not, though.
Let me see if I can try to explain it here. There is a certain attitude amongst the hardcore hockey markets that Tampa fans or Dallas fans, Phoenix or whatever the hell they're calling themselves these days, along those lines that they're not quote-unquote real hockey fans like Chicago fans or Ranger fans or Red Wings fans. That, I think, is where the Sunbelt Solidarity comes from. It has nothing to do with, well, if the Ducks get knocked out, I'm going to root for the Kings because they're a Sunbelt team. Or if the Ducks get knocked out, I'm going to root for the Stars because they're a Sunbelt team. It's not a thing of convenience. It's a matter of really, in my book, two completely different things. You know, they're not rooting, they're not like all grouped together like, hey, no matter what, and you're not going to like this, Mike, but they're not like Canadians where they're going, you know what, any Canadian team is fine by us. It's not the same thing with this. I completely understand where Zach is coming from with this. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I'm trying to say that I see evidence that is to the contrary. I'm sorry, I have seen, and I'm not talking about HF boards. I'm talking about the Kramer forums. I've seen Florida Panthers fans pull for the Coyotes because it, quote, rose the game.
Those are Panther fans.
Hold on. You saw a Panther fan?
Now we're getting into the thing now where you're saying, oh, boy, you can't count. And again, it's just more conditions. Oh, I mean, every time I come out with an example that proves you wrong, you say, oh, you just can't count it.
Okay, stop.
That's not how it works.
No. Let me throw this in there. Okay, so does that mean that if I disavow anything that guy, what's his name, says, am I doing that out of convenience because he's a fucking idiot?
It just seems that every time I come up with an example that, proves my point, it's like, oh, well, you can't count him. Oh, you can't count him. And it gets to the point where I'm saying, well, yeah, your point makes complete sense if you completely disregard what everybody who runs counter to it ever, says in response. That's the easiest argument to win when you can just take all the evidence that proves you wrong and declare it invalid.
But what you're saying is if there's one fly in the ointment, then the entire ointment is, just destroyed.
I'm saying that your version of how this works isn't universal.
Then I would say the same to you. That you seeing a couple bad eggs doesn't make the whole batch bad.
We just did a show a week or so ago where you, Zach, came down on all of Canada for wanting to root for the Canadians because they're the last team there. So this all just strikes me as convenient, where it's like, oh, we're not like that except in the rare cases when we are.
But Mike,
it just strikes me as convenient.
Greg just used your example, and then you come at us saying that, and I just said that I wouldn't root for a Sunbelt team, when you said that not all Canada does what it does.
I think
we're saying the same thing, just on different different perspectives of it.
I don't really have a horse in this race. I think that if of the three of us, I'm probably the most unbiased when it comes to this particular thing. And I really don't think that there is this quote-unquote Sunbelt Solidarity exists in the way that a lot of you guys are trying to portray it to exist. That's all.
I will say that Sunbelt fans will stick up for each other when the Northern fans say that we don't deserve our teams or that they should move because we don't deserve their teams or that we're idiots or that we don't know the game or that it's too hot there, why do they have a team, etc. But when it comes to the straight up and down
rooting
hockey,
interest.
Yeah, when it comes to rooting interests, that's where it ends. Like I won't root for Dallas or Tampa or whoever just because they happen to be from below my longitude or latitude or whatever the hell latitude. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to like, well, they're idiots. They don't deserve a team. What do they know? They didn't grow up with the game sort of nonsense that gets spewed out there. That's when I'll come to their defense. But when it comes to X's and O's, wins and losses, hockey, that's not where I would come at them with.
My point is simply that you and I, Zach, are kidding ourselves if we don't think those unflattering portions of our own fan bases don't hold some resonance among the larger body of fans.
Well, that's a fair point. Yeah. Do we all feel better now that we've gotten that off our chests? I guess not. Well, let's go back to talking about cats. We seem to be doing better with that.
No, a little spirited discussion's never bad.
Yeah, we hadn't gotten into a row like that in a while. That was fun.
We're not mad at each other. We're just
I'm mad at both of you. So the hell with it. But
now Cleveland, that's a place that should just be wiped off the face.
Fuck me! And why? Oh my God, the Cavs are in the finals.
Yes.
So when the Cavs get swept by the Warriors, how many Cleveland fans' suicides are we going to have to go through?
All of them, probably. Honest to God, I have stayed away from that thread because I don't even want to. I just don't want to see it. I don't want to be a part of it. It's amazing how. Well, this is okay. From what we were talking about earlier. You talk about there are fans that are so bad they can turn you against a team. How about fans that are so bad they turn you against your own team? How's that? That takes some doing.
I take it you're not really pulling for the Cavs in this.
I am. I mean, again, it's a situation where I am cool with either team winning because I really don't have any investment in either one of them.
And how cool is it that we've got in this finals a team that hasn't made it to the finals in 40 years on one side, and a team that's never won a finals on the other?
I think it's really cool.
City that's never won.
Yeah.
Yes. A city that hasn't won anything since, 1964?
Yep.
That is a drought. That's longer than the Leafs Cup drought.
Yeah. and you're not counting Toronto's had the Jays.
We had the Blue Jays and the Argos,
right? You're talking
then,
here.
So.
There's been nothing, zero. And the best part is that when they did come close, any of the teams, they not only did they lose, they lost in the most spectacularly crushing fashion you could lose, except for the Cavs.
Got swept the last time.
Well, yeah, but that was. I don't think anybody really expected them to win that series. So that was kind of
They didn't win a game.
No,
they got swept.
But you see, like the Indians. Well, 95, was it 95 when they went the first time to the World Series? That was like you had this team that won 100 games in a season that was shortened by 18 games, and they still managed to win 100. Go in and just get worked over by the Braves. The Braves just made them look like fools. Then you had 97. The Indians are right there with the lead going into the bottom of the ninth, and they choke it away. And the Browns, I mean, geez, do I even have to talk about it? The drive, the fumble, all of that stuff. Yeah.
John Elway's legacy built on the bones of the Cleveland Browns.
But my point is that these fans, these Cleveland fans, are so just, well, you guys know how they are, and the people that listen to the show know how they are. I don't have to describe it. But you think it's bad when you can get fans that, like, say, a neutral fan goes, you know what, I'm rooting against your team just because of the way you are. This is a really good illustration of how bad Cleveland fans are. They drove me away from a team that I grew up rooting for. That I'm like, I don't want anything more to do with this because of you guys. That's bad. So it always could be worse, I guess, is my point. But. So
I guess that's a good segue into the NBA. What do you guys think is going to happen with the?
I think
six.
I think the Warriors are very capable of sweeping the Cavs. I forget which one of you said it, but I really think
I did. Yes.
Maybe Warriors in 5. I think it really the Cavs' ability to stick around is going to depend wholly on LeBron.
Right.
Or, because Klay Thompson just got a concussion in the last game. And it's really now Steph Curry when it comes to outside shooting. But if the outside shooting for the Warriors cools down, they have a full week until the finals actually start.
The way I look at it is that the Cavs, if LeBron can go into total FU mode and just reach like Jordan levels of dominance, the Cavs can win. But other than that, I don't know. I think the Warriors are just a better balanced team. I don't think I know Kyrie Irving's hurt a little bit right now, so that's going to hurt the Cavs. But
and that's what it is. It's mostly LeBron right now.
You got no Kevin Love.
No.
I'm going to say Warriors in 5. I'll be generous and say LeBron manages to, through sheer force of will, get a game. But
yeah, I think LeBron will win a game, and then the Warriors will close it out at home. I think that seems more realistic.
If there's one thing you could say that goes in Cleveland's favor, and this is that LeBron's been there. He's done this. Whereas I don't know that the Warriors have a whole lot of experience going this far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that might come into play. I don't know. But the Warriors, like I said all season long, they're having a really great, almost all-time NBA single season here, but I guess because of the Warriors or something, no one seems to be taking it seriously. Would they win 67 games this year?
Yeah.
In the regular season?
Good.
Yeah, they're a really, really good team. So
yeah.
But I'm happy that it's the Warriors and the Cavs because I'm just happy that it's not what we thought it was going to be, where we were half right, but still.
Yeah. I'm just really excited to see actually an NBA Finals just that's this fresh.
Yeah.
And I'm really of the opinion the Warriors winning would be cool just because it's been 40 years. And the Cavs, I still think it would be, Cleveland fans aside, I think it would still be a really cool story if LeBron James managed to win a championship for the Cavs. So I'm really good either way. No rooting interest. I'm just hoping that it produces some good basketball. I hope it's not Warriors in 5. I hope it goes at least 6 games, so it lives up to that. So
I would like to see the Cavs win. If I had to say, okay, you have to root for one or the other, I'd say the Cavs. Just for what you just said, Mike, because he's taken a team, and this I think too would really kind of finally cement how great he really is, because he's always had the knocks on him throughout his whole career. If he comes back to Cleveland and in one season takes a team that didn't even make the playoffs last year and wins a championship with it, I don't know what else there is. What criticism is there left of him at this point?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for the most part, almost everyone's come around on LeBron. I don't think there's a whole lot of LeBron hate. There is some still, of course, but not nearly as much as when he first went to Miami.
Right.
I think everyone's seen him kind of mature and kind of grow up and be a more complete all-around basketball player. Honestly,
I think this might seem strange to say. I think that letter that he wrote that was published in SI went a long way to that. Sometimes those backfire, A-Rod, but the Yahis.
He loves the Yahis and the Yahis fans.
Hey, you know what? We've got to love that letter for the Yahis, if nothing else.
But I think that letter, that LeBron wrote, I think the best thing that come out of that was kind of describing his time in Miami as sort of him going to university.
Yeah.
Which, was a realization that I don't think a lot of people had until he brought it up. And like, oh, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense. This is a guy who was drafted into the NBA right out of high school to his hometown team.
He never had to go anywhere.
Yeah, he never had that. He never really had to leave home and
or grow up. To be blunt about it, yeah.
And so, when he kind of explained his stint in Miami in those terms, it kind of made a lot of sense. And I think it made a lot of people who were critical of the whole super team concept kind of go, okay, well, that makes sense. And so I think you've seen a lot of the negativity sort of evaporate. And I think the only people still hanging on to the LeBron hate are just people who are like, they're really committed to it. Like, they've hated LeBron this long and they can't just stop. They can't just stop. Like, they think they'd look silly going back on it now, so they're just
the LeBron haters that I think are hilarious are the Miami fans.
Yeah,
that have all of a sudden just start hate LeBron.
Betrayal.
He went to your city when he didn't have to. He won you 3 championships, right? Or was it just 2?
Two, but he got there 3 times.
He went to 4 straight finals.
Right.
Won 2. And you're mad at him because he decided to leave? He saw the
play for his hometown team.
You saw what the team became this year. They were awful.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, are they mad because they made the team bad? You know, if LeBron had stayed, they weren't going to win a title anytime soon.
Although I think someone brought up a great point. Like, you could probably stick LeBron on any team in the East and he'd get them to the final. He'd get them into the playoffs at the very least.
That's probably true. I mean, the East was bad, but that's also a thing where it's like how you don't know how good the Cavs actually are. You don't know how good LeBron and the rest of the team are. Like, yeah, they swept Atlanta and they beat them by 30 points in the last game, but how does that translate to them playing the Warriors?
Well, see, I think the Hawks, they were a great story this year, but they were really a paper tiger. They filled up on a lot of bad teams. And
the Cavs, it took them a while to kind of come together and get the wheels moving. And once they did, then they became the dominant team in the East. If they had been on the same page from day one, they would have been the number one seed. They wouldn't have had to worry about the Hawks, taking the home court or any of that. Ultimately, the home court didn't matter, of course, because the Cavs were just better.
I kind of hope, too, that if they do win it, I'd like to see them do it without Kevin Love, just because I think there would be less of a Miami feel to it, where, like, you got LeBron and you got this other great player type thing to go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be kind of cool to see them pull this off without him. But I'd like to see him win it. But, again, if the Warriors win, I think that'd be a great story, too, because when did they win it? Was, 74? Is that what we said?
It's been 40 years, I think.
Years.
Yeah, okay. So 75 then, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just nice that it's not the same teams that we talked about last week that are always there.
Right.
And plus it'll make it, when the Lakers come back and get it back together, it'll be all the sweeter now. But
because we'll actually have a rival in the division.
So to speak.
Oh, what? You're not pumped up about that Inter-LA rivalry?
The Inter-LA what?
Rivalry?
What?
The Clippers are. I got news for them.
But I mean, the divisions are so clear. I mean, the Lakers are Los Angeles County, and the Clippers are the city of Los Angeles.
Okay.
That's what their logo says.
Yeah.
I think their logo says, "Come on down, you're on The Price is Right," but that's just me.
I think their logo says, "Follow us on Twitter."
That too. What's the guy's name? The head of the FIFA?
Sepp Blatter.
I sent Zach a quote where he said he's just shocked. Shocked, I say, that there's bribery and all this going on.
Well, Sepp Blatter, as Rams 80 has said, is a super weapon away from being a James Bond villain.
It's you again, Mr. Bond. Welcome to my World Cup stadium, or giant laser beam.
So what?
Built on the bones of Brazilian slum children.
What's
built on the Qatari slave labor, where they're dying by the day.
And people wonder why I don't like soccer. So what's the latest with this?
Well, the United States Justice Department. Yes, the United States Justice Department has arrested FIFA officials in Zurich, Switzerland, where they will be extradited to the United States to face charges of wire fraud, racketeering, and money laundering. Now, there's also a Swiss investigation going on that's more into the voting on the World Cups.
Yeah, the Swiss one could reveal just how much money was involved in giving Qatar the World Cup. Because I think we're all in agreement that
right
was not on the up and up.
Yeah, the U.S. Department is they arrested them based on charges of CONCACAF, the North American Soccer Federation, basically. A bunch of corruption based on some stuff that happened in CONCACAF. So that's what the U.S. one is. But there's the Swiss one, which would go into the voting process. It could potentially strip the World Cup from Qatar, which is really what we're ultimately trying to do. Because have you seen the death chart thing?
I have seen it.
There's a death chart?
Oh,
okay. I'm sending you a link. Right.
I've got it right here. I've got it.
Okay.
So there's a chart in this article. It has one little person to represent the deaths. So they have it based up against some of the previous Olympics and World Cups. In London and Vancouver,
Holy hell.
Olympics, one person died in each of the London and Vancouver. 2 died in South Africa for the World Cup. Looks like about 10 for Brazil.
Keep in mind that there's 25 slum children for each worker in Brazil that died.
Yeah, and then there's maybe about 30 for Sochi. And then maybe about 6 for the Beijing Olympics. And then there's the Qatar one.
The Sochi, that's 60 people. Each row represents 15 people, 15 deaths. So what did I say, 15? No, 20. 20, okay, so each row is 20 people. Times 3, 60 people died. Look at Qatar.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Have you heard about how the process works in Qatar, Greg? About how those workers get exploited. Basically, they come over looking for work from Bangladesh and other southern Asian nations.
Yeah.
They come over to Qatar looking for work. Their passports are confiscated by the state, so they can't leave.
Yep.
And then they work for basically nothing until they die.
Wow.
It's slave labor.
Yeah.
So we have for
joke, it's like, oh, Qatari slaves. No, it's not a joke. These are actual slave labor, and they're dying by the handful.
Well, I was just going to say, you've got 3 rows of 20 people per row of 20 rows. So that's, I don't even know.
It's 1,200 total.
1,200 total? Yeah.
Yeah. And the International Trade Union Confederation estimates that there will be about 4,000 workers that will die by the time the World Cup actually arrives in 2022, should it arrive there at all.
Well, what's the holdup? Why won't they yank it from this place? Because clearly it's not working out so great.
Because this is FIFA, Greg.
Because Qatar paid FIFA all of the money.
Silly me. Why did I even ask?
Right. Money changed hands, allegedly. They're building these stadiums for a World Cup that may not happen, and a World Cup that's going to disrupt the entire soccer calendar, a World Cup that nobody wants to really play in. And, beyond these things, UEFA, probably the most prominent football federation or soccer federation for you. UEFA member associations are meeting tomorrow, which is today, ahead of the FIFA conference. At that point, the European associations will decide on what further steps need to be taken. In the meantime, UEFA is asking for a change of leadership and that the conference should be postponed and whatever.
Everyone has been saying for years that UEFA is going to have to be the ones to step it up because they are the most prominent of these organizations.
Right. There's UEFA, which is the strongest and has all the best
teams, basically. Yeah.
Teams and federations and organizations, all that. Then there's CONCACAF, which the U.S. and Mexico and Canada, they're pretty solid in terms of their leadership, but there's been a lot of bribery and corruption with the Caribbean members of the Confederation.
Are you implying that money changed hands illegally in the Caribbean?
Probably.
Shock of shocks.
Yeah.
Right. But Africa and Asia are firmly reportedly one of the two confederations that give a lot of money to FIFA and, do a lot of things for FIFA so that FIFA doesn't do bad things to them or whatever.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned, that Asia and Africa, they pay FIFA a lot of money. Apparently, FIFA's underhanded doings aren't exactly news to anyone. And the reason they're able to avoid a lot of these countries going after them is because they say, basically, if you go after us through your legal systems, we're going to blacklist your team from the World Cup.
Right. Or blacklist your team for the World Cup, or specifically when it comes to Africa and Asia concerning Qatar, because it's right there in between the two of them, they'll take the World Cup away from you.
So it's a case now where, because soccer's such a big deal, that's actually a pretty big threat in a lot of countries. They didn't count on the United States not giving enough of a crap about soccer.
Because that's the other thing. That's the other thing. As many strides as we've made in world soccer that you've heard me kind of play up. If the U.S. were to go after this and FIFA were to suspend them or whatever for standing up to them, we wouldn't care as much.
Yeah.
Right? You can suspend us from the World Cup, and we'll say, "Good, we'll take that slap on the wrist for the greater good of." Soccer.
I don't think
it's not going to kill us.
We're not going to have a single problem being on that side of that debate at all.
Whereas if England or Germany got banned, it'd be like, well, that'd be a different animal.
Yeah.
So the U.S. will, throw the first stone, and then hopefully they'll get everybody else to get behind them and either turn over the FIFA leadership and system,
or just secede.
Or yes, to kind of compare it in American terms, it's kind of a power conferences versus the NCAA sort of thing. This is kind of the same thing on a bigger world scale, where North America, Europe, and South America could be like, you know what, FIFA, we don't need you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're ridiculous. You've overstepped your boundaries, and this corruption stuff is beyond the pale at this point.
And just be like, hey, coincidentally, join us for the International Football Championships, and just like throw their own tournament.
It's amazing. I mean, I think I made the joke earlier with Zach. I said, you know, the FIFA, we make the IOC look good.
The IOC is getting worse and worse, too. When you look at Sochi, and you know, we're going to see
I'm not sure
next year when we go to Rio.
In a couple of years, you know, the Winter Olympics, they still don't know where they're going to put those because nobody wants to host them. So they might actually end up having to put it in Kazakhstan, which would be hilarious.
Well, you know, speaking of Sochi, though, Sochi had the dogs, so everybody paid attention to that and paid no attention to anything else.
Yeah.
So FIFA just needs to get some dogs or some cats or something involved here and draw everybody's attention away from that. See, they're not playing this
look
right.
at all of the malnourished slave laborers.
There's nothing really cute about Qatar.
No.
Like, really, outside of the money issues and the slave labor stuff, which is, you know, the biggest parts, there is nobody outside of Qatar that wants to go to a World Cup in Qatar.
Well, isn't it like 170 degrees there most of the time, too?
During the summer when they normally hold it, so they're going to move it to December in the middle of all the international soccer regular seasons, and nobody wants to stop playing the regular season for a full month. Like we talked about before where the NHL doesn't want to stop for the Olympics anymore, but that's like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Right.
This is a full month or more of, hey, we're going to stop your domestic leagues that make you billions of dollars.
In the NHL's case, it's probably not the worst thing for the league overall to stop and put all of your players on a stage where everyone's watching.
Right. Well,
I don't know that you need to do that in the World Cup.
But in the NHL, that's just allowing the players to go. You know, the Olympics will still go on if the NHL players don't go.
Right, exactly.
But if the professional soccer players don't go to the Professional Soccer World Cup, there will be no World Cup. It's a mess.
It's a mess, but it's one that's going to be sorted out one way or another. I'm confident we're either going to get a massive regime change at FIFA, or FIFA just won't be a thing anymore in a while. So
the other thing is, as we've seen with why these arrests even happened, money talks, right? And the biggest money makers for FIFA are Europe, the United States, and Brazil and Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say to FIFA, like, no, we're really done with this now. We'll leave if you don't change. FIFA will change. I think one way or another we'll still end up with FIFA. It'll just be changed up a little bit because the people that make them almost all of their money, despite the ones that get shoved in their back pocket, they'll say, okay.
I'm just surprised at the level of arrogance, you know, in FIFA's current leadership, that they thought that they could do something as absurd as give the World Cup to Qatar under these conditions and think that nobody would notice. I mean, they just thought that they could just do it and nobody would bat an eye at it.
Right. Well, and the thing, too, was going into the voting for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups, everybody was pretty much convinced that 2018 was going to go to England and 2022 was going to go to the United States because that seemed like the most logical thing to do, and it was probably going to make them the most money in the most legitimate ways.
You put a World Cup in England, you're basically printing money.
Right. And so and that's the other thing here is that Russia is part of UEFA. So while UEFA wasn't the happiest to see it go to Russia, and there was probably some money that changed hands with the Russia thing, they're not going to throw one of their own guys under the bus. So they're going after the Qatar one because that's the one that's throwing the biggest monkey wrench in everything.
The Qatar one is the easiest one. I mean, Russia, Sochi has its problems, but goddamn, at least it's not being built by slaves.
Right, and I think almost all the stadiums are built. Like I think one of the Sochi stadiums is going to be used in that World Cup too.
Yeah, I mean the Olympics pretty much put the infrastructure in place. So
right. This is a headline you always want to see when you're hosting the World Cup or when you're a soccer fan. Report, Qatar's World Cup expected to take more lives than 9/11. FIFA slaves banned from attending relatives' funerals.
Yeah. FIFA slaves were also required to run a marathon like a month ago.
Just because?
It was like a charity marathon, and they needed it to look good, so they got all the slave labor to run in a Qatari marathon, where guess what? People died! because they were running in jeans.
Oh,
and
it's
flip-flops
right
with no shoes.
There's the story. Qatar forced a bunch of migrant workers to run a marathon. God. Wow. This is a mess, huh?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I know it's not supposed to be funny, but FIFA slaves banned from attending religious funerals. It's funny.
It's just so absurd. It has to be funny. Like the Oilers winning Connor McDavid. You can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, the big participants in this thing, they need to step forward and do the right thing here and either, like, clean house at the top or wherever it needs to be cleaned out and make a stand because this is ridiculous. I mean, they're comparing it to freaking 9/11. Like, the death toll is going to be higher than 9/11, which is probably not the best comparison to make, but it really drives the point home.
The other thing that we forgot to mention, I think I mentioned it last week, there was the BBC journalist that got arrested for trying to report on the slave labor for World Cup stadiums. Everything's on the up and up.
Oh, boy.
I love soccer, but I hate everything about it.
Well, it's kind of like being an NHL fan. You know, you love hockey, but then you look at like what the NHL does.
Yeah, but we're not using slave labor to build the Las Vegas arena.
That we know of.
That we know of, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Zach's Tabs.
Zach's Tabs!
Take it away, Maestro.
Well, I mentioned bad NFL, so we might as well get that out of the way.
Is there any other kind?
Do you guys know Ray McDonald?
Yes.
Remember he was defensive end for the 49ers last year?
Yep.
Got signed by the Bears a week ago?
Yep.
Remember how he had domestic violence charges while he was in San Francisco?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, he had a domestic violence charge against him 3 days ago against the same girlfriend.
God.
So he got a restraining order put on him, which he broke yesterday. And got arrested again.
So when can we expect Roger Goodell to suspend him? I mean...
Well, as soon as he sees how the public reacts. That's what we're waiting for.
The Bears cut him already.
Oh, good.
Right. So, like, they signed him, and then as soon as he got arrested again, they said, you know what? No. We're not going to be one of those teams. You're done.
We're not the Vikings.
The bigger question is, why did the Bears sign him in the first place? They knew that he had trouble.
They might have thought that it was maybe water under the bridge.
Okay.
Because
I have no idea, honestly. I'm just trying to...
Unless he shows up with a certificate from I've took months and months of therapy and they think I'm okay now. Short of that, I'm not signing him.
He did the NFL's surely credible and not at all bullshit program about domestic abuse.
The one where they show up and when they say, don't hit girls, at least don't get caught, that one?
Probably, yes.
Okay. All right.
The one that they established when Roger Goodell told us all that they were going to do better.
Today is a big day. In an hour, there will be the championship finals of the 22nd year of coverage of the Scripps National Spelling Bee Finals.
Woo! That thing does pretty good in the ratings, doesn't it?
I don't know.
I've always heard that it did.
They're adding a new thing this year where if you watch it on ESPN3 or the Watch ESPN app, they'll have an interactive feature that you can play along, basically.
Really?
You can get the same information, like the etymology, the definition, the pronunciation, and try to spell it yourself.
Wow.
So my question to you guys, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
It's easy. Biscuit is my favorite word, yes.
Biscuit.
Biscuit, yeah. Like Montgomery biscuit.
Biscuit. Okay.
Mike,
your favorite word? You're a learned man.
My favorite word. That's tough, but I'm going to have to kind of in the same, kind of biscuit vein sort of word.
If it has a Canadian U, I'm not counting it.
No.
I love the Canadian U.
It isn't a Canadian pronunciation, actually. And it's a military rank, lieutenant.
That's a cool one, too. I like that.
You Americans call it lieutenant, but you're wrong. It is lieutenant.
Yeah,
but
that's
it's spelled L-I-E.
I know how it's spelled. You're still wrong.
Well, I guess colonel is spelled C-O-L.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like Worcester is called Worcester in Massachusetts. Explain that one to me. But yeah, go ahead, Zach.
My favorite word, it's not long, but I just like the way it sounds, and it's probably a terrible action as well, but I like the word flog.
Flog.
Okay.
Like aggressively whip. Flog.
So as it stands right now, our favorite words as a show are biscuit, lieutenant, and flog. There's a joke in there somewhere. I just can't get the bat off my shoulder to hit
the
it.
The lieutenant flogged the recruit for stealing a biscuit.
Hey, there you go. See? Zach stepped into the box and took a swing. I couldn't pull it off.
Lieutenant flogged his biscuit.
I will tell you why biscuit is my favorite word, because I believe it is the most harmless word in the English language. There is nothing bad about a biscuit. Think about it.
With the biscuit in the basket.
I mean, it's a great food.
They are delicious, yes.
It's an awesome name for a minor league baseball team. And there's nothing there's nothing bad about it. It's just such a wonderful, harmless word. That's why I like it. Does anybody have a least favorite word while we're on this?
I know a lot of people that hate the word moist.
No,
I don't mind moist. I hate the word egg.
Egg.
I'm with you on that, Mike. I don't like that. I don't like that word either. Yeah,
it's just ugly.
It really is. It's not a good word, is it?
No.
Speaking of egg, I guess I don't like the word hollandaise.
Hollandaise?
Yeah,
I just it's hard to say. Like, it feels weird coming out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't like the way it's spelled. I don't know, hollandaise.
Egg is a good one. I mean, I don't hate it like you do, Mike, but I get where you're coming from with it. It's not a great word.
It's not a good word.
No.
I've also always hated the word core, like the Marine Corps. Because
it's in it?
Whenever I read it in my head, I always see, Defense Corps. I'm like, no. It's Defense Corps. I can never, read it correctly. It always comes out in my head as corpse.
I can't think of one that I really dislike. I tell you a word that really drives me nuts. It's not like I dislike it so much as that it aggravates me, is dinner. Because it's like no matter what, anything you're going to get together, people will go out to dinner. Why? If you've ever seen Good Will Hunting, it's like, why not go out and eat caramels instead? It's as perfectly as random. Huh?
Caramel?
What did I say? Caramels, whatever. It's a Midwest. We call them, what did I say, caramel?
You said caramels.
Caramels? Well, I see in the Midwest, you go, I say it both ways. It just depends on when I say it, I guess.
Syrup.
It's syrup.
Syrup.
Okay, whatever. But it's like you always got to go out to dinner. Like, let's go out and have dinner.
Oh,
why can't we go out and ride motorcycles or something instead?
I know one thing I hate. I hate the Midwestern use of pop.
Oh.
No. See, it is pop. It is pop.
Oh.
Pop is the right term for it. No. Soda.
Soda is what you have with scotch, dude.
Yeah. Soda is just bubbly water. A soft drink is pop.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got the Midwest and an entire country against you on this one, Zach.
No. It's soda.
It's pop, dude.
It's pop.
At least we're out the South. Can I have a Coke? What kind?
It's like fucking anarchy in the South. Everything is Coke.
First time we went there, it's like, what would you like to drink? Coke? Oh, what kind, honey?
A Coke?
Yeah, but what kind? And it's like, ugh. Ever had a legitimate Southern sweet tea? By the way,
yes,
actually, I have.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Ugh.
It's molasses in a cup.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to the truly deep South, not like Atlanta. Like, my buddy's like, hey, we got to go to this place to get you a sweet tea, right away. I'm like, I don't need one. But we went there, and it was this barbecue place. Barbecue was really good. But it's like, here's this gigantic glass of sweet tea. And you just sit there, you're like, oh, my God. Just, would you like some water with your sugar? Anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of Southern things that they say are great that really aren't.
I'd say the South has barbecue and fried foods down pat.
Well, see, here's the thing. This is a distinction that needs to be made. A lot of quote-unquote Southern food is actually what would better be described as soul food. Like the fried stuff and all. Southern food, as a rule, is not very good. It's the fried. You want the soul food. You want the poor Kentucky hillbilly food, not the Southern food from Georgia. There's a big difference between the two.
So where does barbecue fall on that? Because
barbecue is more a Southern thing than it is a hillbilly thing.
Okay, the South gets a pass just on the barbecue itself.
You ever had dry rub barbecue?
Yes.
Dry rub's awesome, isn't it?
I love dry rub barbecue. That is the one thing we as a nation, Canada, we cannot barbecue to save our lives. Canadian barbecue is god awful, and
me and Gord barbecued a moose the other day.
It's so bad. We just drain all the life out of anything we try to barbecue. It's like Canadian barbecue is a national embarrassment.
I like my barbecue smothered in sauce.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
I'm not big on the dry rubs. I love a nice thick sweet barbecue sauce.
Oh yeah, it's got to be the sweet barbecue sauce too. Yeah,
good sauce is definitely great, but I remember the first time I had dry rub barbecue, and I was like, "This is amazing."
Yeah, I'm good with either one. I love both.
Yeah. If you ever had Carolina barbecue, where it's all vinegary?
Yeah, I've got a cousin that makes all kinds of he lives in North Carolina and makes all sorts of barbecue stuff like that. He was the first place I ever had dry rub, and I mean he's got the accent. He's like, Greg, man, you got to wait. You just wait till you taste this dry rub, man. And I was like, okay, dude, whatever. I took one bite and I'm like, oh my god, this is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten in my life. Dry rub is incredible.
We need to just import 1/8 of the state of Texas to Canada and just distribute them across the country.
Isn't Saskatchewan near Texas?
No, Alberta's our Texas.
Oh, okay.
No, what you need, Mike, is you don't want Texas barbecue. You want Kansas City barbecue.
See, I've always heard that the big debate was between Texas and Carolina, but then Kansas City comes in, and it's
Texas makes the beef,
right?
But Kansas City makes the barbecue properly,
right? Yeah, I mean Kansas. And they make great beef too. We ordered for Christmas. We ordered steaks from this place in Kansas City, and my God, they were unreal. They were just incredible. But yeah. The Carolinas are more about the dry rub, and I think the saucy barbecue stuff's more a Kansas City thing, right?
Yeah, Kansas City's barbecue. Kansas City is sauce. Memphis is actually more the dry rub,
right?
And the Carolinas are usually more like vinegary sauce
and dry rub. But yeah, if you can barbecue it, I would rather have it that way. I don't care what it is. I love barbecue, man. Just love it.
Barbecue a fish.
I've had it. I've had barbecued catfish. It's not bad. It's not bad, believe it or not. Catfish is a really underrated food, too, by the way.
Catfish is also a disgusting fish.
It really is.
I have tried catfish, and I'm sorry, no.
Everybody says this about everything, but catfish has to be cooked right. And if you don't get it right, it is disgusting. But if you get it right, oh, my goodness, it's delicious. But
I just know that catfish live in the mud and have to be fished out by sticking your arm down its throat. And
you throw a worm on a hook and reel one in, man. No problem.
No, but you see those 20-pound catfish that people
those are too big. You can't eat those. They're too old. Well, you got to get a good fresh catfish. But I digress.
I don't know. Catfish, they just seem like underwater rats. And I'm like, what is the appeal to eating them?
No, that's carp is what you're thinking of with underwater rats. But
no, the best fish is cod.
Yeah, cod's really good. I'll tell you, have you ever had flounder? Flounder's not bad.
Flounder's delicious. Flounder's great if you get flounder like a steak, if you get it done as a steak.
Right, yeah. And,
honestly, I'm not too big on fish. The most I'll eat of fish is fish and chips.
Oh, see, fish and chips is amazing. I love the cod. To me, is the best fish and chips.
Yeah,
I fell in love with cod actually, strangely enough, at my grandfather's funeral. But for his funeral, he had his remains brought back to his hometown, which is actually a small town north of Toronto called Haliburton, Ontario. And so we're in Haliburton for a few days for the funeral, and they had this restaurant there that specialized in traditional style fish and chips, and it was called the Codfather.
Oh, that's witty. I like that.
And they
was it wrapped in a newspaper?
Yes, it was. It was. It was wrapped in a newspaper, and they only served cod, and the sign was a cod smiling, wearing a top hat, and holding a cane in his fin over top a Union Jack. This is the greatest restaurant.
Just change the cane to a hockey stick, and you got a minor league logo, my friend.
Exactly.
That's right.
You've got the Haliburton Cods right there.
Yep, good to go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, cod's amazing. Try cod.
That was a nice tangent we went off on there.
Hey, we like to get cultured, and now I'm craving barbecue, and I can't get it because this country's terrible. In fact, we've got an election coming up, a national election coming up in October. I will vote for whatever party promises better barbecue.
Better barbecue gets your vote, huh?
Yes. Wow. I'm waiting for one of the three major parties to support barbecue improvement, and they've got my support.
Here's what has to happen. You and Jack have to figure out a place halfway in between to meet. I'll meet up with you guys, and we'll all go out and get some good barbecue somewhere.
He's in Kentucky.
I know.
I mean, that's got to be. They've got to have good barbecue there.
I don't know. They might.
I mean, I just kind of assume that whole area is just generally barbecue.
No, that's the place. If you want to go eat a meal that will take 3 years off your life and you can feel your veins clogging as you eat it, that's where you want to go.
Yeah, but you won't care because
it's so
delicious.
Good. Yeah, it's delicious. But anyway, all right. So where are we here? Are we done?
I don't know. We're a lot of places.
Okay. And on that note, I think we should call it a show. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Go to the website, basicallyasportshow.com. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and the YouTubes. And with that, I'm going to say go Ducks, go Rangers, and we'll see you next time.
If we don't have a show next week, it's out of memoriam for me because I might be dead come Saturday. So, go Ducks for my health.
Go everyone who's not the Lightning.